So I would like to talk about map, filter, and reduce expressions. Let's see like what these map would do first. Map is actually like of the format map of, and we give some function name and then the list of inputs. This is a format like how map would be used. So let's see with example of the use case. So what actually map would do is like for each of the input it would execute the program. It's like let's say you have a function, so which is like squaring a number, and it would return you the square of that number. This is the input, and you have a list, and you want to have all the numbers get squared. And if you directly pass this directly to this to a, it wouldn't work. Like it would give an error because this is an integer, it is expecting an integer, and integer it would run, right? So what we do is like we will be using a for loop for item in a, and then inside a you would be squaring this number of item and store it in a new list. This new number you would be appending to this. You get an output list like which would contain the squaring of numbers. So this is the usual way of doing it. We got like 1 4 9 6 25, right? See, it would pass each number inside a, like 1 it would pass, like because we are iterating through a for loop, right? So first 1, then 2, then 3, like that. So here we are using a loop. So without using a loop and doing it, so using map function we can still do the same. Map of, you give the function name and then the list of things, like you have it, right? So it would iterate over each of the number. So I'll give a, then c. So final output, if of this thing, you see we finally got this output like same way. Like here we wrote again like for loop and then iterating and appending to something, and then finally we got. Here we directly got the values. If you want to apply your function to each of the item just by iterating, so here you can avoid using for loop and just use this map and do the same. This would actually like make your code look very simple, right? 3 lines of code has been now reduced to a single line of code. We want to make our code look simple, so this is a way of doing it. Similarly, there is something called lambda functions. Like lambda function can be written as, so lambda x of x into x. This is a lambda function. Like I mean the format would look like this. In case if you want to have a function which you don't want to store, just to use it for that line, usually I mean developers use lambda functions for such kind of things. Here you defined a function, but it is not needed anywhere else. Like you want to call only in this particular line, I mean just this line you are having defining a function, right? So and you don't want to repeat it elsewhere. So in that case you can use this lambda function. So where you can write the same thing like map of first the lambda function and then a, and list anyway we have to put to display those numbers. So if you run like this, you see it has worked the same way, just because here we did not define anything, just there is some operation which you want to have it across all your values, and I mean that you don't want, it is not very big to define as a number or something. So you can do like this using a lambda function, and it would run this operation across each element, because we are keeping a map here, right? So it would iterate over each of the value and it would run it. So filter, by the name we can see that it would be filtering out of our input or like our data. You have a 2 3 4 5, and you would like to use this filter some values which are greater than 3 you want to leave, or maybe the even numbers you want to filter, right? So usually what we do, we write a program to iterate like for in item in a, and then if it is even number like percentage to equal to 0, and then only that you would append. Like let me do it. So and finally print this out. If you want values which were within which are like even, so we do this, right? So instead of writing these many lines of code, we can use this function like filter So which would have the similar syntax like how we have it for map. You have like filter of condition, because filtering is like condition, right? Or you can use a function, and then the list of inputs. Implement the same program here. Let's say we use this filter. So again I'll be using this lambda function, because for a single line functions it is easy, right? So lambda x, and then if x is like, I'm writing a function, so I would give a condition that x percentage to equal to 0. So that is my condition. So it would return true when x is like divisible by 2. If it is not divisible by 2, I mean the remainder is not 0, then it would return false, right? So that is what this lambda condition would do. And now I would have this here. Let me put a. So because it had have to iterate over a. As per our syntax, so we got a condition here. So and then the list of inputs, and this we have to put filter. And just to show, like I'll put list to list down those outputs. You see we got the same output. So it tests actually what it does is it would iterate over all the values here, and where it is divisible by 2, like where this condition is satisfied, this entire thing is coming as true, that would be filtered. Or if it is coming as false, that would be ignored. So here we don't have to define one more thing like I, like for I in range or something, or like maybe item in a. So all these things are not required. Just like direct, you keep a function and then do it. Lambda function need not be just like single line statement. It can even call a function inside, and that you can see. I mean something like some function, increment this value divisible by 2 equal to 0, return true, else return false. So something like, just like this doesn't make sense, because adding a number and again divisible by 2, it would still give the same thing here. But I just want to show you like if we can also use it this way. So it need not be lambda thing here, so it can be just any function filter. So instead of using this, I'll be giving this. So some function like check value. So just like the map we gave, right? So it would still work, because this is returning true only in case of even numbers. This would return false in case of odd. So only where it is true, it would like filter it out. So let's discuss about reduce function now. So reduce also follows the same syntax like map and filter. So we would be having reduce of function name and then the list of inputs. Now let's see with an example on how we can use this reduce and then explain on that. So let's say like I have a list, input list is like 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then this list I want to compute maybe a sum or maybe a product of it. Let's take product this time. So I want to take a product of this input. So I can what we do is item in input list equal to 1. So because we'll be multiplying each of element, and initially let's say if nothing is multiplied, let's take it as 1. Product equal to product into, and we multiply with the item. So it would iterate across each item and we would be getting this value. And now if you run it, you see we got a value which is 720. Let's see if we can get the same value by using the reduce functions. Now let's see like implementing the same using a reduce function and then see how it would work. So for that, let's give reduce of lambda. We need to specify two variables here. So one is the input. We can have multiple inputs as well, that is also fine, but we have to specify one more variable, that is for the output, star y and input list. So we have provided a lambda function, and then after that we have given the input list of inputs, right? So which is here. So now if we run this, see, we got the same output. So here x would iterate over each element of the input list, and the value like which the computation would happen, and the value would again store in y. So here initially x and y would be 1, and then x would take like first value 1, and then multiply with 1, which is 1 again, and the 1 y value will remain 1. Now the x value after iteration would go to 2. Now 2 into y value is 1, which was 2 now. So y value will be 2. Now again x will be 3. So 3 into y value is 2. So the product is 6. So that would be stored in y, and so on. It would iterate till the last, and then 6 into the previous product like of this which would be stored in y. Now that would be multiplied, and finally we would be getting 720 as a final answer. This function is not directly available. We need to use functools import, from functools import reduce. So we need to specify it like this, and then import the reduce function from functools, and then from there we can use it like this. So in case if you want to have the sum of the list, we can do it by having plus here, then we would be getting sum, right? 1 2 3 4 till 6, it would be sum is 21. So we got it like this.